I feel like I haven't done enough to earn my place on this planet. When I came back from the war, as I said, I lost a friend in the war. I didn't get shot. I didn't lose a limb. I didn't, obviously die out there. Why do I get this? And when you hold on to that, it doesn't create much room for love for the self, because you're constantly upset that, you're angry at yourself. You don't feel worthy. I don't feel worthy of life, and that's been a challenge. Like, I think there's times, so for example, when I did this 10-day darkness retreat, it was just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I had this moment, if you want me to share, I'm happy to share.
Please.
So it was on day 5 of the darkness retreat, and I couldn't sleep because what happens is you start seeing lights that are as real as anything else, right? Any of these lights. And they're very real. Like, they say that your brain starts to release DMT, which is one of the primary ingredients in ayahuasca. So you're experiencing these hallucinogenic lights, and I couldn't sleep because when your eyes are closed, you're still seeing lights. So imagine having transparent eyelids. Can't sleep, there's still stimuli.
For everyone kind of listening, this darkness, like, you're in complete darkness, right?
Sorry, to give context,
it
was 10 days of complete darkness and isolation, 24 hours a day. You could not see your hand in front of you, darkness, complete darkness. So you're in that level of darkness. That's what happens. They say your brain starts to release DMT, and both times, from the 7-day one as well as the 10-day one, I experienced these light shows that were profound.
Amazing.
And so on day 5, I couldn't sleep. I sat up and started meditating on my bed, and kind of cross-legged, and I said, God, I surrender to you. And I don't remember exactly how this journey started, and God knows how long it was, because obviously I had no sense of time, right?
Yeah.
But the first thing I remember is seeing this arrow in the lights, and it was kind of pointing here, and I said, where are you taking me? And this voice said, don't worry, just follow. And I saw this kind of like white cylindrical shape in front of me, and I was like, what am I supposed to see? And it said, look deeper, look harder. And then I see this light kind of leading up here, and my head's going like this to the right. And up here, I see this kind of ball of light, and above it, I see, like, there was depth to the darkness, like stars in the universe. It looked like a night sky. And I hear the voice said, I am everywhere. And then this light burst, and these green light crystals started falling. And this sounds surreal, but this is like, it was as real to me as seeing you in front of me, right?
I love it.
These green light crystals started falling, and as it burst into green, this voice said, I am in life, I am life, I am in everything. And then it kind of faded out here, and as it did, it dissipated, and it said, I am with you, now go. And as soon as I heard that, I kind of broke out of the stupor, and I just started bawling.
Wow.
The intensity of this, I just started bawling, and then I started thinking about all these things that we're talking about. Like, my mom's always told me from a young age, you have a hotline with God. And then I think about all these times that I should have died and I didn't. And I started thinking about these, like, as we speak right now, man, there's people who are being raped 40 times a day. There's people in hell on earth, in war zones, in refugee camps. And I was thinking about that sitting there, like, as I was in there. There's people just in hell. I got to choose to be in darkness. That's a luxury. That's a privilege to have to get to spend money to go for 10 days in darkness.
Yeah.
Most people don't get to choose their darkness. And I just thinking about, like, why me? Why do I get this? And then I heard the voice start talking to me again and said, you know why. I said, I don't know why. I don't know why. And I said, I feel so grateful for it, but I also feel so guilty for it. And then the voice said, that's why. And I just started bawling again. And to me, it was like, and I'm not saying this lens of the world is a reality that is for everybody. It's a construct that works for me. Is like, have you ever seen the movie Green Mile?
I haven't yet.
Oh, okay.
I know, that's on my list. I would love to. I really would.
It's a great movie. And the premise of the movie, just a quick, is like this guy who kind of has his healing powers, and he's on death row. He was trying to save these 2 girls, and they thought he actually killed them, but he didn't. He was trying to save them. So he has these healing powers, but as a result of these sort of healing powers, he feels the pain of the world. And there's this scene where he talks about, it's amazing. And I was thinking about this scene, and it was like, the guilt I feel, the suffering I go through, the not just what I've been blessed to experience, but what I continue to seek. As you know, I'm pushing into some pretty intense spaces of suffering. It's not that my suffering or my holding on to pain is going to make the suffering of the world go away, but it gives me wisdom to help others through the darkness that I would not have unless I've had this depth of life experience. Has given me a depth of wisdom that I would not have had. And by continuing to push so far out onto these edges, I get a level of wisdom to help other people navigate their own suffering that I would not by just reading a book or something, right? Like I'm blessed to experience those. And to me, again, not to say this is a construct that, because many people disagree with me on this construct, to be very clear, is that I believe the suffering that I continue to seek out and experience is me earning my life. And it's a debt I owe for the life I've been gifted. And to be very clear, this doesn't mean I'm constantly like miserable or upset anymore. I love life. And I know what it's like not to. Like when I went to Iraq, I actually gave away all my stuff because I didn't think I'd coming back alive. And naively, admittedly, very naively, I was like, if somebody's going to die out there, it has to be me. You can't control that in war. Because the close friend I lost had died right before I went to Iraq. So when I lost him, I said that I'm going to make sure that if somebody has to die out there, it's me. Very naive at the time. I was a kid, right? But I was like ready to go. I didn't have fear about death. Today, I'm terrified of dying because I love my life, you know? So it's not that I'm miserable, but this, but it's just a way for me to, in my perspective, to earn this life I've been gifted. Right. And I think I might have completely lost track to where the question was, but
no, it's beautiful, man. I mean, you have a unique way of knowing how to navigate the spectrum, and that's a rare. Some people feel that it's kind of one or the other, but the reality is that a spectrum exists on an and, right? It's an and so I've been kind of having these discussions recently about whether when it comes to suffering or anxiety or stress or fear, a lot of people use the I am statements and then they state those things, but the reality is those are fleeting, and so one can feel suffering. But stating I am suffering is a very, very different thing. And I feel like you do such a good job of embodying the I feel suffering because I know that there's another way.
Yeah.
And so I'm using this as a tool, whether this fear, the suffering, this anxiety, the stress, the people that literally everyone feels every single day at some level, right? Yeah, it's part of the human experience. Absolutely. It has been since the beginning. And it can be a great teacher if we allow it to be. And I feel like that's what you've really done a great job of dedicating yourself into. And I feel like I feel blessed that I get to see you showing a sense of empathy to others through that action by saying, look, like, you know, you travel the world and you do things that like people would never even think of doing. Like we were just talking and you're training in 112 degrees, putting 7, like boulders and tires on a sled and training through. And it's like, I don't think you can even pay me to do that. And you're doing it like, while other people are like watching and snapping photos and stuff. Be like, who's this?
Yeah, exactly.
Who's this crazy guy? But you're doing this for like, when I see you do this, like you're doing it because you're showing that, look, although not everyone is doing that, there has to deal with that kind of stuff. Like maybe their stresses might be traffic at work, or maybe the boss yelled at them that day, or there are stresses, and there's no better or worse. There's no more or less. I mean, it literally all we can experience is from our human dynamic, right? And how we experience the world. And so I love that you provide a sense of recognition that we can make a choice. And the true power in it is choice.
Absolutely. And to your point, which I love what you said, that it is an and these things, how people will say like, I am depressed, I am sad, instead of saying I feel sadness, and it makes it their identity.
Yes.
And because we've created this duality that exists kind of in the human condition, right? We'll say like, let's look at, there's dualities to everything: male, female, light, darkness, life, death, contentment, discontentment, ego, humility. And we often live in this world that demonizes one side of the duality, right? Like if I look at stress and recovery, stress is bad, or fearvana. Fear and nirvana, two seemingly very contradictory ideas, right? Fear is the bad thing and nirvana is bliss. But to your point that these forces coexist as one, and life experiences led me to that even in suffering, they can be great bliss. Like when I'm dragging tires in 112 degrees, yes, sometimes I'm absolutely miserable, but it's that bliss in that moment of going to war with myself, and part of it starts with combating the very demonization of this one side of the duality. Like, there are no bad emotions. We think sadness, guilt, fear, stress, anxiety are bad emotions. They're not bad, they just are. They're more challenging than, let's say, joy or anything like that to experience, to go through, but they're not bad. And the second you stop demonizing them as bad and you accept them for the isness that they are, is when you can start to kind of find the oneness and the duality. Like, this fear is there, but it's not who I am, and it's not bad. It just is. I can choose to be something beyond this. And who will I choose to be? You know, this experience, whatever it may be, whatever the emotion, you know, I can, because even the search for joy can be a very negative thing. I mean, when I was doing a lot of drugs, that's all I wanted to do was feel really good all the damn time, you know? So, and this is where like the duality comes in again. It's like too much of each side is unhealthy. Like too much stress, yes, unhealthy. Too much recovery, not enough stress, is also unhealthy. You know, you need to playing on both edges is where you kind of find a oneness on the spectrum. And as you know, I play pretty far on both edges. So that's allowed me to experience the human condition. Like, I mean, one of the reasons why I love running ultra marathons or doing these long distance experiences, like, you know, being in Antarctica for multiple days and doing these hard expeditions, is it becomes a microcosm for the entire human experience. You know, in one 24-hour run, I can experience horrifically intense lows, but blissful highs. And you go through this journey, you know, and that is the human experience is an adventure of highs and lows, of ups and downs. You can't have a summit without a valley. But when you stop demonizing anything as bad, like guilt or fear or anything, you start to humanize it. You start to accept it. You start to embrace it, and then you can choose who you want to be outside of it. What do you want to do with it in service of your mission, in service of who you are?